Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. You probably just saw the news in your feeds this morning. As of last week, Marvel has completely blown up Daredevil Born Again. They're basically wiping the show from the planet in its current form and will completely change it from the ground up in a number of different ways. And a lot of the reason why is to address the larger problems with Marvel's quality control the last few years.
Aren't you supposed to talk about my show? Wait, your show? I think you mean my show.
So I'll explain what's going on. As bad as that sounds, like them canceling what we know as Daredevil Born Again, completely coming back with something totally different, this is actually a good thing. We're still getting new Daredevil episodes eventually. It'll just be something completely different than what they were originally going to do. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. Of course, I'll do episodes for Daredevil Born Again when it eventually does premiere. We're in the middle of Loki Season 2 episodes. The Loki series is actually pretty relevant to this conversation and what's happening behind the scenes at Marvel right now. It's like this huge creative reimagining of the way that they make television shows just in general. But the Loki series is one of the few examples of them doing something really good despite all these creative misses.
I'm fine. Morning.
But if you haven't seen the news, Marvel or Kevin Feige essentially fired the entire creative team behind Daredevil Born Again a few weeks ago as part of a larger change that he was making to the entire way that they make TV shows just in general. Apparently they were having a lot of problems with the Daredevil Born Again episodes specifically, but they were making larger changes to the way that they make television shows just in general. So there were a bunch of things that they're changing. Daredevil Born Again is just part of that. Before the writer's strike started earlier this year, Marvel had filmed less than half of the planned 18 Daredevil Born Again Season 1 episodes. They're going to be 18 episodes total. That might change a little bit, like they might go to 20 episodes. We'll see. But the writer's strike forced everyone to stop filming on pretty much everything, like Hollywood basically shut down for a while, not just Marvel. And during the strike, according to Variety, Hollywood Reporter, a lot of people that are reporting on this, Kevin Feige reviewed what they'd shot so far from Daredevil Born Again and decided that it just was not working, like it was not up to par, and people were going to be pissed again. There's so much writing on Daredevil Born Again, like people are hoping that that's going to be a big creative return to quality Marvel, the same way that they're hoping that Loki Season 2 is going to do that as well. Apparently, Kevin Feige felt like the stuff that they'd done for Daredevil Born Again so far was not going to live up to that. According to the report, which gets into a little bit more detail, the writers, directors, producers had basically turned Daredevil Born Again into more of a legal procedural, like those episodes of She-Hulk with Daredevil, minus some of the over-the-top comedy and fourth wall breaking, but it was more of a legal show and less of an action-packed drama like the original Daredevil Netflix episodes, which is what most people, myself included, were expecting from Daredevil Born Again. Generally just way more action-packed show now that they have all Marvel's money, like they have that Disney money, infinite money for the most part. You would expect them to do a much more comic booky version of Daredevil, things that they just couldn't pull off with the Netflix budget, which was much smaller than the budget that Marvel now has available to them. For example, the report details that Daredevil would not have even put on his Daredevil suit until episode 4, and when episode 1 picks up, it's meant to take place after the events of the Echo series because Daredevil and Kingpin are much bigger characters during that. Those episodes are supposed to release in January. I'll do episode videos for that when it does release. But when Daredevil Born Again episode 1 picks up after a small time jump after the end of Echo, Matt Murdock has essentially hung up the suit. Like Spider-Man 2 when Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man throws away the suit temporarily, Matt Murdock has a version of this. And this is just a rumor, but apparently the reason for him quitting being Daredevil was the death of either Foggy Nelson or Karen Page, maybe both of them, like they were supposed to be killed in the first episode. My guess is that it was at least Foggy Nelson. You remember hearing all the reports about Foggy Nelson, Karen Page not being big characters during Season 1? Apparently that was the reason. Could you even imagine if this was the way that things had gone down, if they'd released episodes like this? People would have rioted.
I think if you're a true Daredevil fan, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I feel like there's probably no escaping that there's only one Karen Page.
But this wasn't the only reason why Kevin Feige basically pulled the plug on this original version of Daredevil Born Again. The other major reason is they're completely changing the way they make television shows, so this gets really inside baseball, like this is how the sausage is made at Marvel. Pull back the curtain to see what The Wizard of Oz is actually doing. What Marvel did when they started doing the big budget Disney Plus TV shows is try to hack the way that television is made to make things quicker, the same way that they hacked movie making to get their movies out faster. Mostly because they'd had so much success with Avengers Endgame in the last 10 years of Marvel up to that point. Like they've been so successful at hacking the movie making model, they're like, we could figure out TV. And pretty much all the people at Marvel that were making the shows, or at least in charge of calling all the shots on the TV shows, had no experience in making TV shows at all. Like they had no idea. Even the top brass, like Nate Moore, for example, who's the lead producer on a lot of their biggest movies like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, admitted, we have no idea how to make television shows. We'll just figure it out along the way. So Marvel starts making their TV shows assembly line style, the way that they make all their movies, thinking that it's totally going to work out for them the way that making movies did. And as you would guess, this is how they fail hard, because making television shows is a completely different endeavor, requires a completely different skill set than making movies. There are things that you can do on movies to fix movies after you finish shooting them, like fixing it in post, finding the movie in edit, that you can't really do on a TV schedule. So that's why you have a bunch of TV shows that are coming out with some episodes that are just not up to par. Like, well, how come they didn't fix this? Because they didn't have time to film it or reshoot it the way they would have if it had been a movie. Basically, Marvel has this mindset of fix it in post. Basically, the way that Marvel makes movies, and this goes back all the way to Iron Man 1, like they've done all their movies this way. They'll hire writers to develop a script, then they'll change the script every day as they're filming. For example, in Spider-Man No Way Home, Tom Holland said that they rewrote the script every single day so that if you asked him what was happening in Act 3 when they started filming the movie, he would have no idea. Like even the director, John Watts, who's a really solid director, had absolutely no idea what was going to be happening at the end of the movie when they started filming the movie. So Marvel, way back since Iron Man 1, basically has been driving this really fast train, laying the track in front of it as it's moving. That's how they were able to get out 3+ movies per year. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy is like the opposite example of that. He took 3 years to get the next Batman movie out, The Dark Knight. Then he took another 4 years to get The Dark Knight Rises out because he just felt like he needed that extra year, more time, to just make a much better movie, to make a better story just in general. Whereas at Marvel, the quality control problem goes back to them trying to get stuff out super quick. And then Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, especially as the pandemic started to hit, starting to force them to produce even more and more content. And the special sauce at Marvel, at least up to this point, has been Kevin Feige just completely focusing on a movie and retooling it, making it again and again and again while they're still filming the movie to make it as good as it can possibly be. But here's the thing, there's only one Kevin Feige, and he can only do so much work, so you start producing way more stuff in general, like way more movies at the same time, way more television shows at the same time. Even this year, like 2023, originally, they had scheduled to release up to like 6 series this year. When this started happening, Kevin Feige just lost the ability to focus on each of the different projects, so he had to delegate a lot of the tasks to his other producers who also have no experience in making TV shows. And that's where the cracks in the quality control problems start to happen. That's why they delayed a lot of stuff. They're back to doing just 3 movies per year, and they're only doing a couple series per year. And in the last couple of weeks, Kevin Feige has changed Marvel's method for making TV shows to make everything work more like traditional TV shows are made. Now Marvel is hiring dedicated television executives who have experience in actually making good television shows to manage all the shows. Previously, they just forced all their movie producers to work on the TV shows, even though they had no experience in doing that. And whereas before Marvel would greenlight $150 million, $200 million TV shows without a pilot episode or a showrunner, like Secret Invasion, for example, which was a disaster for them behind the scenes, cost over $200 million to make. Now Marvel's changing that. They'll have traditional showrunners, traditional writers' rooms, managing the story episode to episode, going to set, making sure things don't fly off the rails, making sure it all makes sense, changing things the way that they needed to be changed on the fly. And no more, I repeat, no more 6-episode events. They're basically not trying to make bloated movies and just chopping them up into 6 different episodes. They're going to start focusing on longer episode runs like 10 to 12 episodes per season and multiple seasons of serialized TV shows like you would normally expect, giving characters time to develop and people time to connect with them. Whereas before, they were more focused on these limited series like the 6-episode events. For example, the Falcon and Winter Soldier series was basically a failed movie. They took the script from that, dusted it off of their shelf, and broke it into 6 episodes. That's why it felt all over the place. One of the happy accidents that they've had in all of this mess the last couple of years was Loki Season 1. That was like the diamond in the rough. It was amazing. But here's the thing, they never actually planned to do Loki Season 2 when they were making Season 1. That's why Season 2 has taken so long to get out and why none of the writers from Season 1 came back for Season 2, because they'd already moved on to other projects when Marvel said, hey, why don't we do a Season 2? Now going forward, they're basically planning on doing multiple seasons from the beginning so that all their creative staff, the actors, don't take off after the first season and it takes them like 4 years to get Season 2 out. So as much as it sucks to see Daredevil Born Again get delayed to 2025 while they hire totally new writers, showrunners, directors to do a completely different story, I would much rather wait a little bit longer if it means getting a really, really good version of a Daredevil show. Generally, Marvel is making all these changes on all their TV shows that they're filming starting now. Daredevil Born Again is just like the first example of that. There are a lot of shows that they've already finished filming that they'll probably try to retool with the extra time behind the scenes to make better. But for the most part, all the brand new stuff starting today is going to be part of this new Marvel method of making TV shows. Basically, Kevin Feige pulling a hard reset, like unplug, then plug it back in on Marvel television. Now, a lot of you are asking me if they're going to completely change everything about Daredevil Born Again. What's the new plot going to be like? What's the new story? The Variety report says that they'll use some of the footage that they shot already. Like, they hadn't filmed half the episodes yet, but they'd filmed a lot of stuff. So some of the plot elements will be the same. Like, Kingpin will still be running for mayor of New York City like he did in the comics. Punisher will still be coming back in a big part of Season 1. Jessica Jones, the other Netflix Defender characters, will eventually come back too. They'll probably bring back Foggy Nelson and Karen Page in a bigger way and not kill them off in the first episode. And even though I think that they plan to do Season 2 before this, they're definitely going to do Daredevil Born Again Season 2. The new release date will probably be closer to spring 2025. That's my expectation right now, closer to the time they're releasing Captain America 4 Brave New World. They might change some of the post-credit scenes in the Daredevil episodes and references to be more current to what's happening in the MCU while that's happening, because it's happening a little bit later. But generally, a lot of the really big plot elements, like the whole Mayor Kingpin of it all, will stay the same. Most of the changes that they just announced address most of my complaints that I've had the last couple years about Marvel TV just in general. Generally, the Loki series has been like the diamond in the rough, like the exception to a lot of these quality control issues. So far, I think that Season 2 has been really solid. My full Loki Season 2 Episode 2 video will post on Friday after they release it, just like normal. Click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that. And click here to learn about the big Scarlet Witch Easter egg in the last big Loki post-credit scene. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.